Hi, I'm Dr. Susan, and welcome to this exciting Facebook event where we're talking about bioidentical hormone replacement, and specifically about hormone pellet therapy, which is something I'm really excited to offer in my office at CompleteMidlifeWellnessCenter.com. I'm actually a hormone pellet patient, and I have two amazing guests here today who are also hormone pellet patients of mine, and we just want to talk through our stories with hormone pellets so you can see what you might expect when you come in to get yours. So I want to introduce you to Kelly and also to Jay. Both of these ladies are a little bit younger than me. I know it's hard to believe that we're all over 45 because we look fabulous. But I'm going to be sharing my journey as a really postmenopausal patient. I went through menopause about 6 years ago, and these spring chickens have not quite gone through menopause yet, but are still benefiting from what hormone pellets can offer. So I'm going to talk to these beautiful ladies about their stories in just a moment, but first of all, just give you a few minutes of background about hormone pellets. And we've talked about this on some of the other shows that we've done recently. But for those of you who didn't listen into those, hormone pellets are one amazing way to get hormones replaced into your system as you age, the ones that we've lost naturally as a result of menopause or perimenopause. So when we get older, we lose several hormones, and this is just part of aging. Obviously, we lose estrogen and progesterone, which are the two primary ovarian hormones when we go through menopause. But before that, we start losing testosterone as well. And so there's an increasing body of evidence that replacing just a small amount of testosterone for women can be really beneficial. So we'll be talking about that a lot today. And hormone pellets, because they are delivered into your body by a teeny tiny little incision, and these ladies will tell you about that, but tiny incision, just a few millimeters in size, and the pellets placed into the soft part of your bottom. They deliver an even amount of hormones similar to what nature provided rather than a daily shock of hormone replacement that you might get with a pill or with a gel. So I'm going to tell you about my story a little bit later, but I wanted to talk to Kelly first. So Kelly, tell us a little bit about you. And when you came to see me, you'd been on some hormones before, and then kind of walk through what the experience was like for you getting a pellet in our office.
Okay, great, thank you. When I was about 45, I had my sixth child. And about a year after that, I started seeing a different physician to kind of help me figure out why I was so tired, why I wasn't able to really perform in the gym. I knew something was going on. My diet was great, my exercise was great, but I couldn't figure it out. So he ran a bunch of tests, and he had given me some different medications, some topical creams and different things, but just really wasn't, I couldn't really tell a difference. I couldn't tell anything was happening. And I kept taking them, I kept increasing the doses, but I really couldn't tell anything was going on. Fast forward to 6 months ago, when a family physician friend of mine said, "Oh, you really need to see Dr. Susan. She's doing great things with these pellets. You need to talk to her." Sent my blood work, and the rest is history. I felt terrific.
Now, do you mind sharing how old you are? I'm 53.
I turned 50 in February of this year.
And so, look how fabulous she looks. So Kelly and I both work out a lot. One of the things that I noticed when I went through menopause, and Kelly has not gone through menopause yet, you're still making estrogen on your own. Now, the average time to go through menopause is 50 to 52, so that's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
Now, in my case, I went through menopause earlier and lost my estrogen as well as progesterone and testosterone. And one of the main things that I noticed was, as much as I worked out, I could not gain any muscle. And so
that was really my problem as well.
Well, you just show us your muscles.
Wow.
You got to see these things. So it's just impressive. But what we're talking about when we're talking about testosterone is not anabolic steroids that many I've heard many people say, well, isn't that going to make you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger and grow a beard? And no, absolutely not. This is like bioidentical testosterone, which means it's exactly the same hormone that we've produced in our bodies all of our lives. Now, men produce much more, of course, but when you go through menopause, it drops. And the main complaint that I hear from patients is they're fatter and less muscle, and you can work out till the cows come home and you can't gain any muscle. And I had that same experience.
Yeah, that was exactly my experience as well. I could do as
Yeah.
many squats, walking lunges. I mean, I worked out 6 days a week, adequate rest, cycled different days I worked out, everything I did, and I could still tell, why are my thighs looking so jiggly? I mean, I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
And then whenever we did my testosterone levels, all my other hormone levels, it was like I didn't have anything at all.
Yeah.
So then clearly you need something to have some amount of muscle tone that you had when you were 21, 25, 30.
Yeah, and so part of this is about looking good. I mean, you know, so she looks fantastic, but there's health benefits behind that too. When we lose muscle and increase our body fat percentage, it puts us at increased risk of many diseases. You know, all of us know that increased body fat puts us at risk for diabetes, heart disease, and some of us might not know also breast cancer. And then the more muscle we have, the more calories we burn at rest. So it keeps us thinner, which improves our health. And then it just feels good to be strong. I don't want to live the last 20 years of my life in a wheelchair with a hip fracture because my muscles haven't been stressing my bones, which is very important for maintaining our bone density. So there's a ton of health benefits from this too. Plus you get to look really good, which doesn't hurt, right? So tell me about what was it like getting a pellet? I have a lot of patients who are scared. They think it's going to be painful, and what was it like?
Well, I was scared because I don't even like to get a shot.
Yeah.
I don't even like to get Botox. I'm scared of all needles. But it really wasn't bad at all, actually. I mean, the incision, once you took the bandage off, I couldn't even see where the incision was, honestly. I couldn't tell that there was anything there. The Band-Aid on it was bigger than the incision, like you couldn't tell.
Yeah, and it's in your bottom.
It's in your bottom. It's in your upper bottom. And so it was very quick. The most prep time was the freezing and the stuff you put on to numb it. And it was in and out. We talked about kids starting school for 5 minutes, and next thing you know, I was taped up and walking out the door.
Yeah.
It felt fine. My first time, I didn't know what to expect. So it was kind of a little raised bump to where they put the liquid and the pellet goes in. So I wasn't sure, but within a couple of days, that was totally gone. You took the bandages off and you went about your day. It really wasn't bad. And now that I know what to expect, I'm ready to get my next one when it's time. It was nothing. Especially for the benefits I'm getting from it, it was really nothing.
So the other way you can get testosterone, there's only 2 ways we can get testosterone right now. One is in pellet form and the other is a topical cream or gel. So tell me about that.
So initially, after I had my 6th child and I went to the other physician, he said, well, I want to do this, let's give you some cream. So there's all these regulations also. When you put it on your arm or your thigh, you couldn't be around anyone for 30 minutes, and I have a little child.
Can't touch anyone.
You can't touch anything, you can't do anything. So I did it, and I set my timer, and initially the dose I was doing, I'm like, I really can't tell. He's like, give it more time. So I did more time. And it wasn't that it was cheap to do it either. So I was doing like double dose, 3 times the dose. And I really never got a spike, or I never like, oh, I feel like I'm on something. I really couldn't tell either in my workouts at all. And so finally he said, well, just stop taking it. You don't really need it. It's natural for it to go down anyway. He kind of almost gave up. But that's when my friend referred me to you. I'm like, okay, let's try it. Somebody has to know something that could help.
Yeah, and that is an interesting comment. Mostly coming from male physicians or from women who haven't been through menopause yet. They say, don't worry, it's natural for it to go down. Like, yes, so, I mean, natural isn't optimal, though. I mean, we were supposed to die around now, let's face it. So living after 50 is pretty brand new. It's only been a couple hundred years that we've even done this. So if you hear that, I'm sorry, and then call me, because it is natural for all that stuff to go down, but it's not optimal. And not only it's not about vanity and looking great, which is awesome, so maybe it's partly about that, but it's also just about being healthy, because if we're going to live to be 100 years old, how do we want to spend those last 20 years of our life? And then another important benefit from testosterone is sexual function. And I think we've been chatting before this. Hers is still fine because she's not postmenopausal yet, but I'll tell you my story later, and my sex drive was just disappeared. And so, you know, that's really important to keep that as a part of your life, I think, if you want to. It's not for everybody, but if you want to have an active sex life after 50, it's very difficult to do that without hormone replacement. So that's really important. And then I tried the gel too, I'll tell you, before I got a pellet, and it's messy, it's impossible to remember, you can't touch anyone, like she said. Depending on, you know, your workout routine or what the temperature is outside, you absorb a different amount every day. So it's just not giving you a sustained low level, which is the same for, you know, months at a time. And what we're trying to do with hormone replacement is simulate nature, where you are producing just a sustained small amount every time, not this like massive dose once a day, which gives you this kind of blood level. It's not physiologic. So so far, the closest to nature that we've been able to simulate with hormone replacement is in pellet form, because you get this sustained low dose every day for months. And the pellets last in women for 3 to 4 months, depending on your activity level. If you're really athletic, closer to 3 months. If you're a couch potato, closer to 4 months, so somewhere in there. So Jay had kind of a similar experience, and I'm so excited to talk to Jay because she just got her pellet 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And
yeah,
and I'll share Jay. Jay and I have been friends for a while, and so she texted me and was like, I can't remember what your text said, I can pull it up, but it was something very positive about a week after, like, OMG, I feel great. So tell me, like, that is a really short time. Yeah?
Yeah. About 7, maybe 10 days for sure, I started having an increase in energy. And that was one of the symptoms that I was feeling before I contacted Dr. Susan, was low energy and just feeling tired all the time. So I would say, so the last 4 or 5 days, I'm kind of bouncing up out of bed. I'm sleeping better. I'm also taking progesterone at night. And I just have great energy level, pretty steady throughout the day. I don't crash in the afternoon. And I haven't changed. I was eating relatively healthy before. I haven't changed anything else in my diet. And I feel really good.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so what was your experience like getting the pellet placed? Like, did you have any issues or problems?
No, none at all. It was very painless. Just a tiny little prick with the numbing medication, and then the pellet got placed in. We were chit-chatting. I was actually surprised how fast it was. And then I had a little bit of soreness the next day in the area. And then once I took the bandages off, I can't tell. Couldn't tell you right now where the pellet is in my body.
Yeah, that's something people ask a lot, is can you feel it? Yeah, I can't feel it. Nope. Because it looks like a, I often tell people it looks like a grain of rice. That's a little exaggeration. It would be like a really big grain of rice, kind of like I used to have rabbits, like rabbit food. Anyway, it's pretty small. It's very small. And so patients sometimes ask if you can feel it, and it's underneath your fat, about an inch underneath, so you really can't feel it. And I can't see, I've had several now, and I can't even see the incision. It just disappears. It's like a little dot. So we put it so that it would be under your thong if you wanted to wear a thong, and no one would see it. But no one would see it anyway. So both of these young ladies, as I mentioned, are not postmenopausal yet. And I know I've chatted with both of them, and sexual function wasn't really an issue yet. But what happens as we get older, and it'll happen, I'm so sorry, it'll happen to you too in a few years. But what happened to me when my estrogen dropped, as well as the progesterone and testosterone, is you will start having vaginal dryness. The tissue gets thinner so that sex can be painful. And when we stop ovulating, which is really what menopause is, when we stop producing eggs, something happens in our brain, and I believe it's just biology saying, well, you're not fertile anymore, so your sex drive goes away. And that is almost universal. But replacing those hormones can dramatically change that. And obviously, libido for women, I always say, is 90% from above the neck. So we have to have a good relationship and be connected and have really know ourselves and do that work, which is very important. But underneath all of that, if our hormones are out of whack, we can be in the most fantastic relationship and be super self-aware and all of those things. And if it hurts, we're not going to want to do it. It's just natural. So replacing these hormones before you get too far into menopause is really helpful, because it's very hard to undo. We can undo it, so don't worry. We can undo it if you're already in that situation, but it's a lot easier if we don't get to that point. So what are you thinking about doing when that time comes?
Well, I also, like Jay, I take progesterone at night to sleep, but I'm sure once my estrogen is down low enough, then there's a pellet that you can put that along with your testosterone, doing something with it. Because although I like to look nice, but I eat well, I exercise, so I want to continue feeling well. So whatever that looks like is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So it's important to me.
So when we put this little introducer into your bottom, you can put testosterone and estrogen through the same little port. So for women who are postmenopausal, we put the little bit of testosterone and estrogen. And for women who are not postmenopausal yet, just the testosterone, because before menopause, our estrogen's fine. So these ladies both had estrogen levels that were fine. But we know over time that will change, so it's important to follow up and check that at least annually. Or what often happens is sometime during the year, one of you might call me and say, oh, I'm having hot flashes and night sweats, and that's a sign. Often we don't have to check estrogen because patients will just say when their estrogen's low because you don't feel good. I had the worst hot flashes and night sweats. I would wake up soaking wet, and then you're freezing cold, and of course then you can't sleep, and so that affects your work the next day, and everything goes downhill when you can't sleep. And so estrogen's great for sleep, and so is progesterone. And so both of you guys mentioned taking progesterone at night, and that this is a natural hormone. As most of you know, we produce it after we ovulate. So as we get older, even though we're still ovulating, these ladies are still ovulating, the progesterone level's not as high as it used to be. And then for me, I never produce any progesterone anymore because I don't ovulate at all. But what does the progesterone do for you?
I take 150 milligrams every night, about an hour before I go to bed, and you can't, it's not something hits you and you fall right asleep, but once I'm asleep, I meditate and I go to sleep that way, and I stay asleep all night, probably till about 5:30 in the morning, and that's when I would naturally be getting up. I usually always get about 8 hours of sleep. Before that, maybe I would wake up at midnight, maybe again at 2:30. Even if it was just for a few seconds, but then to rustle back around and look at the clock and panic that I woke up, then it's really disruptive mentally. Even if I could go back to sleep on my own, it was very difficult. Progesterone just allows me to sleep all the way through the night.
Yeah, it's
wonderful.
It's a really great natural sleep aid. Did you notice that, Jay, with progesterone?
Yeah, I've been taking melatonin for a couple of years, and then when I added the progesterone, it just felt more like a slower, natural way to fall asleep. And then I woke up less. I'd sleep solidly through the night, like 7-8 hours. Kind of that sleep where I don't wake up, like where I don't move. It's great.
Yeah, and it is amazing to have that effect from something that we've made all of our lives. And when it slowly goes away in our 40s, I personally didn't notice, it didn't happen overnight. It was just I couldn't sleep as well. And insomnia was my number one complaint. And it's interesting because the particular pattern of insomnia that we see in perimenopause is very similar to the pattern that we see with depression. And so unfortunately, a lot of times perimenopausal insomnia is, in my opinion, mistreated with antidepressants. And for sure, some people need to take antidepressants. Don't get me wrong, but if you have insomnia and you're in your mid-40s and you don't particularly feel depressed, think about maybe progesterone instead of an antidepressant, because there's so many side effects, and they're very difficult to get off, and they may or may not even help you sleep, and then have a lot of other side effects. So for me, my progesterone works so well that I have to take it at about 7 o'clock at night. Otherwise, I'll feel sleepy in the morning. So we can adjust the dose, don't worry, to make sure that it doesn't make you too sleepy. But that's just sort of a funny thing for me to be too sleepy, because I've had, a decade of insomnia. So now my complaint is I'm too sleepy. I'll take it. I can sleep. I sleep for, 8 hours. Sometimes I sleep for 10 hours on the weekend. It's so nice, like to get a really good sleep. And then you wake up. I look younger when I've slept. Do you notice that? I look in the mirror and holy cow, I look healthy.
Well, I don't know, all the thousands of studies, even recently, that have come out that are all about sleep. Sleep is linked to everything that we do, say, eat, breathe, disease. So if you're not getting that, how can you function with anything else? It's so important to me. My kids get sleep, I get sleep. It's very important.
Well, I had years, I delivered babies. I had my whole life, I've never slept. And so now I can sleep. It's like, wow. And Jay, do you mind if I share what you do for a living?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
So Jay's a psychiatrist. So you know what you know about sleep and the effect on the brain, right? So, or a prolonged lack of sleep used to be used as a torture agent. It's terrible for you. Yeah. So what happens to people who don't sleep?
When you don't sleep, you have an increase in depression, anxiety, you can develop psychosis, other mood disorders, mania. So it's very important for your overall functioning.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had all of those things. Like, I really thought I was going crazy when you don't sleep. I couldn't remember. I think I've told you guys the story when I was like 46 and I wasn't treated yet with hormones. And I couldn't remember my own phone number when somebody asked me my phone number. I mean, it was only for a few seconds, but it felt like forever, and it's so scary. I mean, I thought I had a brain tumor or Alzheimer's disease, or no, I just had progesterone deficiency. So I took that and I feel better. So, so we take progesterone at night, so it's not in the pellet. So you would not want progesterone in your pellet, or you would be sleepy all day. So that is on purpose type of a thing. The other thing about progesterone is it's a larger molecule than estrogen and testosterone. So when we give progesterone in the form of a cream, or when people have tried it in a pellet, it doesn't absorb as well, and you're sleepy. So that is something that we give by mouth. But there's tons of data that giving estrogen by mouth is not a good idea. So if you're on estrogen and you're taking it by mouth, I would suggest you rethink that, because it goes through your liver. And in doing that, it first, not only does it get metabolized into a bunch of things that don't work, but it also is pretty tough on your liver. And your liver makes all kinds of amazing things, including clotting factors. So one of the things that many of us have heard is that estrogen increases the risk of blood clot, heart disease, and stroke, and that is not the case with non-oral bioidentical estrogen. So what's very exciting is that all of the stuff that most of us heard in 2002 about the risks of hormone replacement are not the case with bioidentical hormones delivered in this manner. Because the studies that were done earlier were done on different products that were not bioidentical, meaning they weren't the same as human hormones, and they were given by mouth. So this is a totally different animal. And so, my main goal as a physician is not to do harm. I would never give anyone something that was harmful, and I take it myself. So with very few exceptions, hormone pellets are safe for the great majority of women. And of course, when you come in and talk to me, we go through all of those things and make sure that it is a safe option for you. But again, the main, so let's go through some of the things that happen as you get older. Some of our younger listeners might not know what to expect. And the funny thing is, I was a gynecologist. I was surprised when all this happened to me. I sort of thought it wouldn't happen. I don't know. I thought I'd be the only person who never went through menopause, because I was an athlete and I was doing Ironman triathlons and all this stuff, and then just got hit like a door in my face, like, oh, everything changed. So you haven't quite got to that point yet, but tell us kind of what the change felt like for you as you approached 50.
Well, and I think that I had it had a lot to do with all my childbirthing years. Yeah. I could really tell a difference, and I really stayed up with what my hormones were like and all of those things during that time. But as I turned 40, before I had my sixth child, I started recognizing some things, like maybe I wasn't sleeping as well, but I blew it off as I was just tired. I've got kids, and you're just exhausted from having kids. And then by the time I had my sixth child in 2015, and I let it go for a year, like I figured my body has to get back, all the things I did to have the baby, it was rough, that we'll see. So at 46, I could really tell I wasn't sleeping well. I couldn't get motivated in the gym. I would still be going, but it wasn't motivating. My muscle was not staying like it always used to stay. No matter how much I was lifting, I couldn't lift as much. Mm-hmm. I felt like I had my wrist would hurt more. I have this low back hip pain, all these different things. All of a sudden, I felt like I was 80. And I'm like, hold on a minute. I'm like still super active and young. Yeah. Like this can't be happening, So I just noticed a lot of things like that. And more than anything, my sleep, not getting back to what it was, and then me recognizing even just 1 week of sleep. I can't imagine being an OB and never getting sleep, because you guys never sleep. I mean, 1 week I was cranky and I was like, something has to give. And I took melatonin also for quite a while. And then I'm like, hey, well, now I'm getting so used to it, I keep taking more and more and more of it. And that's really whenever they referred me to the other physician. And now that progesterone's a lifesaver to really help me. And now the testosterone pellet, like I wish I would have done it last year, but I'm just happy I have it now. Because I feel like a new person. Like I've got energy. When I go to sleep, I go to sleep. When I wake up, I wake up.
Something
awesome.
You said reminded me about the mood swings.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jay, if you had that, but I don't know if the mood swings were from hormone imbalance or from insomnia or a combination, but that is a family problem. My kids will tell you that, it's scary to have those kind of mood swings where you, I would have outbursts and then have to apologize the next day, which is a terrible feeling. And then it affects other people. I mean, so this isn't selfish. You want to feel good yourself, but this is all about relationships too, keeping our sexual function healthy, and then just being a nice person. Because I've had some bad days in there. I'm much more stable, and progesterone has been shown to improve mood stability. So Jay can talk to that, I'm sure, because she works with patients who don't have mood stability.
Yeah, I see a lot of people who are in the perimenopausal or in menopause, postmenopause, who've never had their hormones checked, and they do tend to have mood imbalances, mood swings, a lot of anxiety. What brought me to getting my testosterone levels checked and my estrogen levels checked was really combination of lower energy, weight gain, despite eating the same and exercising the same, and kind of like in my abdominal area, and feeling like sweaty and hot and irritable all the time. So some of those are symptoms of depression, but I didn't feel depressed. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go get this checked. And then when I checked, my estrogen levels were okay. My testosterone levels were very low. And then that's when I called Susan, and I was like, surely we can do something about this.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you didn't start on an antidepressant, because, as you know, that would have helped one thing and created 5 other things, unless you have true depression. So obviously those are great drugs for people with depression, but that is a really interesting phenomenon, that a lot of these symptoms are very much like depression. And so it's so frequent that patients will present to a physician who maybe doesn't have hormones at the front of their mind, and they'll hear these symptoms and naturally will react to it by prescribing an antidepressant. So be careful about that, because I don't want anyone to get on antidepressants who doesn't need to be, and that's not going to fix a hormonal problem. It will fix something else, but not that, and so you'll still have your hormone issues. So yeah, relationships are really important, and we want to be nice people and take care of the people around us, as well as take care of ourselves as we get older. So hormone pellets are a great option. I hope you've enjoyed hearing a little bit about them today. I have one in my bottom. I just got mine replaced on Thursday, and I'm very excited about it. I feel great. Honestly, I feel better than I did 10 years ago, which is pretty amazing. And I plan to live a long time and to be healthy. And we know that this type of hormone replacement actually reduces the risk of several really important diseases, including Alzheimer's disease, colon cancer, bone loss, including hip fracture. That's one of the worst things that can happen to us as we get older. You might not know that if you have a hip fracture, there's a 50% chance that you'll die in the next year. Not from the hip fracture itself, but from all of the things that happen. I mean, life just starts to go downhill when you become immobilized. So we want to do anything we can do to prevent bone loss. And the time to do it is now. It's really hard to do that when you're 80, but if you do it in your 40s and 50s and then ongoing, that will really help. And I wanted to talk to one thing about what you said, Jay. Weight gain is so common. In fact, everybody I know, including me, gain weight in this perimenopause time. And typically we say, I'm not doing anything different, which is true. And that happens for several reasons. And one of them is because we're losing muscle. And as I mentioned earlier, most of us know that we burn more calories at rest when we have more muscle mass. So anything we can do to hold on to our muscle mass, of course we have to exercise, but having hormone balance helps with that, prevents us from gaining weight. So if we don't do that, we progressively get more and more fat and less muscle, and then we start breaking bones, and then we're in a wheelchair, and it's just not a good cycle, right? So we can fix that now. So if you feel like you're gaining weight and getting fatter and all of these things we're talking about, you're not alone. In fact, you're in very good company, but there are things that you can do about it. So come see me at CompleteMidlifeWellnessCenter.com. or you can email me, drsusan@drsusan.com. And ladies, do you have anything else you would like to share about anything? If you want to look like these beautiful ladies.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think it's important to get checked. Don't make
Yes.
the assumption, like you said, that you're depressed or you have other things going on. Get checked. It's very simple. It's a blood test. It's black and white. There is no question. And then at least you know.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, and I'll add to that too, with all due respect to all of my amazing colleagues in OBGYN out there, I did not know about this until a few years ago. So it's very possible that your doctor doesn't know about it either. And one thing that is true is if you don't know about something, often you will be opposed to it because you don't have knowledge. So if your doctor has some opposition to hormone pellets or bioidentical hormones, I would just put out there it's probably just because they haven't learned about it, which is perfectly average. Most people don't learn about it. Just find someone who does know about it, and don't take no for an answer if you feel like it's something that could help you. You just have to find the right person.
Exactly.
Right? And Jay, do you have anything to add? I mean, as an expert in your field, it's so important to feel good.
Yeah, and it's so important. And I will say I feel so good right now that my plan is to stay on the testosterone pellets and progesterone until I need estrogen, and then just to continue that way. So I'm in this for the long haul, and I feel great.
And you can be, and because there's no evidence that you need to get off of it at any certain point, unless something happens that we don't, something unexpected happens. You can stay on this throughout your life. So thank you so much for joining me, ladies. It's wonderful to see you and sharing your stories with our listeners, and hopefully we can inspire some women our age to not give up, and that you deserve to feel good, and you can. So don't give up on yourself. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.